All right, Mr. Who here, reviewing the 1/14th scale, DRC 14210, the 14210 as I will call it, capable supposedly of speeds of over 55 plus miles an hour. Let's dig into its specs. Now here are some stats from it. Of course, Amazon entry for it claims that it can reach over 80 kilometers or 50 miles per hour. I have heard of users reaching 55 and even a little bit more with this. It can reach 50 miles an hour in seconds. It has a 2852 4400 kV motor, brushless motor with a four-pole design. Has a 45A ESC, which you can, yes, once you have it on and paired with your controller, you can hit it 5 times and otherwise go into super fast mode or into reserve mode. It's water resistant, and some other stuff we'll talk about, especially all the metal and stuff. I changed my hex wheel nuts from plastic to those. That's about the only mod other than the clips. Let's look at how it handles, though. As you can see, the reason why I'm starting it here is because it can take some just brutal spills from the slightest dips that it takes. Okay? A sewage grate that doesn't even go more than an eighth of an inch of a bump or whatever, you go over it. If you go over it anything over 25, 28 miles an hour or anything higher, if it catches just right and turns you, it will flip your car. So it's very hard to ride with these tires. The pedal tires, I didn't get much experience with them and can only really use them in what I could call just wet grass, but they're just not that great either for off-road. And on-road, these tires are for asphalt, concrete, tarmac, whatever you want to call it. It's hard to keep it on its wheels. Now that could be user operator problem, as obviously I might not be a beginner anymore, but I'm barely intermediate. But let's move on to some more of the specs while we see a couple more vids. I took it to an oval track, but before we get to that, let's look at the stats and specs on this. This thing can reach 50 plus mile an hour in seconds. It does it with two Angry Snail 2000 milliamp 3S 25C batteries. Has a reinforced 2.5 millimeter thick Laser X6061 aluminum chassis, metal drive chain, a thick reinforcement rod 8 millimeter thick. Adjustable oil-filled shocks from 72.3 millimeter to 79.5 millimeters with aluminum caps but plastic bodies. Metal differential gearbox, metal dog bones and gears, steel CBDs. The 111 diameter tires that come with it, including the spare paddle tires, are really more soft than medium rubber. They try to say soft to medium, but they're pretty soft. But they can also, once especially cold, grab you at the wrong times and flip your poor little RC. But on this, I ran about 20-30 minutes in a couple different modes you're going to see here. You see, I had a respectable max speed of 29 miles per hour with an average of just 6. But once I get the lines, it's okay. I'm going to show towards the end, and I will let you know. And they are, I'm barely intermediate, if not still beginner, just high beginner. And I'm humble enough to admit that. But this is not a good car for corners. This is it wants to be a drag racing RC, which of course it can't, because you cannot get the distribution of weight from the center down right. So you have to lean into going. You need hundreds of feet to be able to get to that 50 miles an hour to 55 miles an hour because of the torque, the 2.5 kilograms of torque. It will just flip itself end over end. And with that single wheel wheelie bar, no width or anything to it, you're not getting much help there. Check out this brutal wipeout coming up right about here. And then, of course, see it? Let's see that wipeout in slow motion. That's nice, isn't it? Yep. Not too shabby. Now let's move on. So here we are drag racing, which I never did get my SkyRC GSM-020, which I will put a link to in the description, to report better than 48 miles per hour. Because once you can't just go straight to 50 miles an hour on this, because the distribution of weight, the center of gravity is pulled so back that it will flip, back, doing backflips on its own onto its top sometimes, which loses clips. That's why I decided to put my own custom little clip holders and bigger cotter pins in. And while this parking lot was over 200 feet long, as you can see, I could only get to 42 in the beginning. Then I got to a respectable 45. And a little bit later, I got to 46. But the highest I was able to get it, because obviously I didn't have enough room, was 48 miles an hour. That's still pretty respectable. Originally, I was going to give this 4.5 stars out of 5, but I really got to break it down to 4, and I'll tell you why. The detriments at first, okay? One is that it is very hard to hold in a straight line when you're at full speed at 100% output. It just, it's very difficult, and it can catch on to anything and just flip end over end. You can lose your cotter pins because it'll flip over onto its top, and it just rub them out, which is why I added the custom cotter pin holder. And it's not custom, but I just added that onto the shell. And basically, that's just enough right there alone to really take it down a full point, because this would be best for drag racing. And with its slightly poor center of balance, definitely throwing it end over end, unless you lean into it just right. Now that's a nice sound, isn't it? As you can see here, I added on the cotter pin holders, the rubber holders, to the shell. Just a quick little modification. And that definitely has stopped me losing cotter pins left and right. I've also stepped up to I think it's a 12th scale or 10th scale cotter pin. Probably more like 10th. And they just seem to hold it in better. They don't come out as much. And that makes a big difference. The batteries last pretty much as advertised, about 20 minutes a piece. You start really noticing after about 12, 13 minutes, if you're going all out, that the rate is going down. Definitely need a charger discharger like I use a Tenergy, because my God, the USB charger it comes with, it says to hook it up to a 2 amp brick, but the thing's rated 1.2 amp. That takes forever. On a Tenergy, I can do it in less than an hour. On those, it would take me hours and hours. I also replaced the wheel hex nuts with these burnt orange ones, as you see here, because the plastic ones just weren't doing so well, and one wheel actually came off. That's why you only see 3 here, because it flew it somewhere. So those are the big enough deals to bring it down a little bit. But overall, 4 out of 5 is pretty good, and I do suggest getting this. There's almost always deals for you to find for these. Just keep looking around, especially on the Facebook DRC group, and you might just find a good deal for yourself.